Hello, welcome to Unitary Designation. Today we're going to talk about general instability. A lot has happened. You know, Elon Musk has bought Twitter, and that's gone, well, strangely. He's decided to monetize credibility, which is a strange move. It's a strange move because Twitter as a platform isn't indestructible. It's not like there's no way it could go sour or backfire, right? There's plenty of tech giant corporations looking to overthrow it. I mean, if Facebook can fall, which is, not exactly what's happening today with Meta, but conceivably that platform could fall very easily. If Instagram can be replaced, if Snapchat can be replaced, if TikTok can come in and take over, then, it's not like Twitter is this immutable bastion of integrity and journalistic expression that is irreplaceable. Musk could very easily mess it up. Now, I'm not saying he will, and I wish him well. I hope him and the platform thrives to everyone's benefit. I hope the people who use Twitter prior to him joining find the same level of enjoyment that they did previously, and I hope people who maybe never gave the platform a try give us a try and find their voice on it. But the blue check mark now cost you $8, and anyone can buy it. It's no longer a sign of an account being official or verified. And that has had all the predictable outcomes that you might expect. I saw Nintendo of America, an account called Nintendo of America with the blue check mark, uploading a picture of Super Mario giving the finger. And, fans were crying, Mario would never do this, because it looked very legitimate. And the chaos that has ensued has been, at a certain level, it's been entertaining, but at another level, it's also been very disturbing because, in an age of misinformation and disinformation and not knowing who to trust in terms of media, having this sort of validational checkmark was a way to helpfully buffer out a confusing stream of information, and now that's privy to everyone who's willing to pay for it. Now, I understand Musk's reasoning. Twitter was losing millions a day. People had to be laid off. It was an unsustainable business model. The money was going to have to come from somewhere, and it wasn't generating ad revenue to the extent to cover their losses. So, yeah, even if Elon hadn't bought Twitter, Twitter would have gone. It was an unsustainable business model. So they would have had to monetize themselves somehow. Now, you could quibble about free speech, you could quibble about what Twitter is, private company, public utility, and you can do all these debates, and they're interesting. It's also interesting to know what Twitter is and what it isn't. It's not the flagship social media platform, like the one that represents social media better than any others, but it's also not the least credible. I don't know. I'm reading a book right now. I can show you about the philosophy of the internet. I haven't finished it yet. I plan to give a book review when I'm done. So this is a work in progress. It's called The Internet is Not What You Think It Is, A History of Philosophy, A Warning, by Justin H.E. Smith, and it's published in 2022. Stephen Fry, among others, have reviewed it positively. So, he's a historian of philosophy, and he offers a thought-provoking insight into the internet as not as new or as novel a technology as we might think. And it's very interesting. So you could write a whole book. You could write several books about the philosophy of Twitter, what Twitter is, what it isn't. I'm more interested in like currently how monetizing credibility in that sense is, if that's the right way to go. People work, night and day to make this feature go, and there's been a lot of firings and upheavals at the company, and obviously that's garnered significant share of media attention. I don't know if it's relevant to cover that in depth. It's cumbersome. It's worrisome. Musk has a different vision for Twitter, obviously, and it's more geared. His overall vision seems to be more geared towards freedom of speech, unchecked. But that also means advertisers are more reluctant to advertise there because, well, I mean, you don't want your product associated with unsightly political leanings, let's say. So there's that. Meta seems to have lost a lot of its share by continuing this focus on the metaverse. VR is an interesting technology, and I think it has a lot of potential, especially if you look at it in a historical context. And yes, this is the birth and infant stages of it, and sure, I mean, VR isn't currently as vivid and as engaging as the real world, but if you are a VR enthusiast and you go back to like the 90s, VR has come in infinite, has made infinite progress since then. I mean, you can walk around as your avatar, you can talk as your avatar, you can like live your life as an avatar. And I gotta say, in an internet world dictated by social media platforms, online role-playing games, online worlds in general, I don't think Metaverse, I don't think the vision is insane. I think it's actually very, very Mark said in an interview recently that he was shocked that other people hadn't done the Facebook thing before, and that they just kept going, thinking that someone else has already done it, and if it could work, someone else would have done it, and they just ended up being the one that became the thing. And he has the same sort of attitude with Metaverse. He just can't believe no one has done it before, and so he just does it. And there's some wisdom to that madness. There's some method to that madness. Like, if you build it, they will come. And I believe that's true. But at best, this is something that online games have struggled with before. Player retention. Like World of Warcraft, at its peak, had 12 million concurrent users in Wrath of the Lich King in 2008, 2009, 2010. So, and early 2011. So they knew then that they couldn't hook any new players. Like, they had tried all the angles, like having Mr. T appear in TV spots, William Shatner, introducing different kind of game modes. Like, keeping the core audience seemed to be what was working. They had lost ways to cycle in new players. And this parallels to Meta, because Mark's vision can definitely create this kind of meta, the default paradigm for those enthusiastic about VR, if they choose to go there, which means it has to be not lame, which means it has to be not Facebook. But to have it be as big as Facebook was, I think there's going to have to be generational gaps, changes that occurs there. I mean, I know a couple of friends that not live in VR, but, spend some of their time in VR spaces. And sure, if a platform was to come up that gathered all these places, VR chat and any other VR space, that gathered all these places into one VR hangout, sure, that might increase the demographic, and you might attract peripheral, like friends of those people, girlfriends of those people, associates of those people to come and hang out in the space. But it would be, at most, currently, the de facto VR place. It would. I don't see how Metaverse could become this sort of de facto place for like your aunt or people with kids and jobs and etc. I don't see people coming home from work, to eagerly spend hours in the metaverse currently. Now, I might be wrong. If there's a way to aggregate every casual PlayStation user, Xbox user, video game, Steam user, if there's a way to aggregate all those people, all the music nerds, all the online game nerds, all the people who don't have traditional hobbies, like, I'm not shitting on any traditional hobby. I think they're great. Golf, great exercise, great for the mind. Group sports, team sports, chess clubs, they're all great. But for people who don't have those, having an online alternative is great for combating loneliness. And so I don't think Metaverse is actually a bad idea, right? Because, well, Mark certainly has the funding that it takes, and God knows there's not a shortage of lonely, lost people to sort of try to engage with socially, but there seems to be a kind of branding issue. Something about Meta isn't resonating to those people. I think maybe they're trying to cast too large a web, and so they end up with not, everyone keeps slipping through the gaps in the web. It's not cool enough for it's just not cool enough. And I don't have an answer for how to make it cooler. You'd have to look at existing spaces, VR spaces, what they're doing right, and then try to build on that. Most of creativity is theft, after all. So what else? Metaverse, Elon Musk, Ukraine. Well, I mean, what's there to say about Ukraine? I mean, we don't know what narrative is right. If you follow Western media, and this has also been exhausted, this topic, but if you follow Western media, Russia is losing hard. I just saw today that Russia went into a recession, but is that real? And if you follow Russian news, they're thriving and the war is going great. So it's and this topic of this media warfare has also been covered extensively. So it's there's not a lot of new angles there. It's a war. It's terrible. It shouldn't happen. It's equally an information war, which also is terrible and shouldn't happen. And the war is by far the worst part, obviously. Me being confused by what kind of tweets to follow is not comparable to people losing their homes, their lives, their jobs, their structure, their reality. War is bad, and everywhere, not just in Europe, but everywhere. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot to say there. What will the ultimate outcome be? What will this mean for Russia and the strength of its perceived military strength? What will this mean for China? Will the Chinese benefit from this in a way that's detrimental to the West? It's very hard to say, and this could all unfold. Will Ukraine be a precursor to a greater conflict between Taiwan and China? And how will that reflect? I mean, what's the cost of political polarization in terms of geopolitical stability? These are more interesting questions, more than topics of ongoing intellectual debate. Seems to be ongoing, and now there's a upcoming election cycle in the U.S. Should Trump run again? Should DeSantis get the nomination? It's going to be some interesting debates, and it's not clear who will run as the Democratic side. And will debates on the Republican side between DeSantis and Trump, will it weaken both parties and make sure no one runs? And can Biden run again? And will he? And who has the... As far as I understand it, Republicans recently won the midterms. So, if that's any indication, right? I don't know. It's hard to keep up. A lot keeps happening. And that's a topic in and of itself, how to keep up in an information cycle. It's definitely changed. My ability to keep up and be engaged with all this content has definitely declined as I got a busier real life. And a lot of people have made that observation too, that like the people who spend all their time on politics, you know, you shouldn't spend all your time on politics. Like, you really shouldn't. It's not you're not supposed to, right? It's supposed to be about how do we structure our local community and like our national interests long term. Like, it's supposed to be something it's a civic duty you do when you have spare time from your well-lived life, right? To quote Aristotle. It's not supposed to be this motivating force that like gets you up in the morning and motivates you, and you think, oh, I can wake up and keep engaging in the political sphere. It's like, no, well, why don't you live your life, right? Why don't you handle priority one first, and then when you're taken care of, when you have your meal and you have your job and you have your meaningful relationship, why don't you then like expand your competence into the external world, right? Not new information, obviously, but yeah, so this, I don't know, it's something I got personal experience with as I got busier with real life. I had less time to engage with the news, and I don't know if that's been a bad thing, to be honest. It's definitely made less content come up on this channel, which, you know, that everything has its cost, I guess. So I've recently done some reading about Plato and Aristotle, and I might do a video about that, especially in terms of Plato's political philosophy and the current one, the modern day climate that we see. Yeah, so I mean, this has been more of a catch-up video. I hope you all are doing well. Let me know if there's any topics you want me to engage in and cover. Yeah, all right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.